like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the wake up, get out the sheets. We came for one man, forget that peace. You take the west side, take out the east.
Louisa Connolly-Burnham, we have got so much to talk about, but I want to dive straight in with Sister Wives.
I didn't know it would be like that.
We never do.
Why don't they teach us?
Same reason they don't teach us anything else. To keep us here.
Tell me a little bit about your inspiration for this, because as I was watching it, I was kind of thinking so much research must have gone into it.
So this amazing documentary came out in 2022 on Netflix called Keep Sweet, Pray and Obey by two amazing female filmmakers, Grace McNally and I think it's Rachel Snetzlin, or maybe Snetzlin. I'm probably pronouncing her surname terribly. But it was about the group of people that Sister Wives is essentially inspired by. They're called the FLDS. They're kind of an extreme sect of Mormons that are based in Utah. And the men can have as many wives as they want. Essentially, the more wives you have, the closer to God you are, supposedly. So the men are having a great time. And the women wear these like prairie dresses that almost look Victorian, and they can only wear pastel colours. They can't wear the colour red or anything. And the men are in sort of shirts and braces. And if you looked at them, you'd think that they were from a completely different time. From an aesthetic perspective, they look like they're living like hundreds of years ago, but they're not. It's happening now, today, and there's lots of crazy bad stuff happening within this cult. Child marriage, domestic violence, underage pregnancies, but there aren't many queer stories coming out of the group. It's very, very hard to leave the group, and I think even if you've left, you're terrified to talk about it because there can be repercussions. So I wrote the film because I wanted to tell a queer story within that space, because there must be queer people in there. We're just not hearing about them. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this cult, so I wanted to write a story about that, about what it would be like to fall in love with one of your sister wives and how you would navigate that, I guess.
Well, it's fascinating you say that, actually, because I was watching it and I was thinking, you know, how realistic could this be? But actually on Disney at the moment, there is a documentary about queer people who leave the Mormon church behind and all their families. So I was kind of like,
Really?
actually, yeah, this is so true to life. It's fascinating. I can't remember the name.
Oh my
I
goodness!
can remember it.
You'll have to send me the link.
Yeah, I will. It's so true to life, and I was kind of thinking, like, why that story? Why the queer space? Because you thought of it as it was actually happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Why do you think that was an important story to tell?
Mainly because we haven't. Those stories aren't coming out right now, and I do believe in my gut and my heart that those stories do exist. I think that there's a lot of excitement as well about queer film right now. I think that people are more open now than ever to buy tickets and go to the cinema to watch a queer film. So I thought it was the perfect time to do it. We also play with two, I think a lot of queer films tend to be like period dramas, which ours technically is, but it's also kind of set in the modern day world as well. So I feel like we haven't seen one quite like it, one that looks like a period drama, but is actually set like within the 2000s, within the noughties essentially, which is why I wanted to do it. But also, like, it's just about these characters. Like, I really care for these characters and the way that they kind of become free throughout the film. I thought it would be a fun story to explore.
Yeah, there was a bit in it that I absolutely loved. So, I mean, I had the exact thought process. I was kind of watching it and thinking, I wonder what time this is set in, because it feels like a period drama. And then her mobile phone goes off.
Yeah.
And it kind of just, you sort of go, oh, wow, okay,
Yeah.
so this is like modern day. It's like happening now. Did you do that on purpose? Was that sort of like moment to actually say, well, this is what's happening now? Or kind of bring it forward so that people realise, well, hold on a minute, she's got a Nokia. This can't be the 1900s.
Yeah, the plan was to trick them into thinking that it was essentially like the 1900s or the 1800s, and to have that shock factor when the phone goes off, because...
It worked.
Yeah, good. I'm glad it worked. And also, you also want to shock your audience, because it is a shock that it's happening now. They still dress like that. They're not allowed to cut their hair. They don't wear makeup. I don't think, have access to things like social media and stuff like we do. So it is shocking, and we should be shocked and aware that it's happening right now. And a lot of people, I think, still need help and support from that group, both if they're in it now and after they've left. It should be shocking, I think.
Yeah, and there's so much in it. There's the judgment, with the other girls telling the church leaders what they'd seen, and there's trauma in it as well. All these kind of what those girls go through, with their husband and stuff. How do you tell a love story in that space? Because essentially it is a love story, but it's kind of got all of the other elements in it. I mean, what was your aim in terms of making a beautiful but realistic story?
I wanted it to be really like nuanced and natural. It's very confusing and complicated for Cadence, because all Cadence has known is her husband Jeremiah, and they are essentially childhood sweethearts. She's never lived with another woman, and I think that Cadence is very, very surprised to discover that not only can she have feelings for somebody else that isn't Jeremiah, but that she can have feelings for a woman. So I wanted it to be... The tricky thing is with a short is you have to pack so much in such a short space of time. So in an ideal world, I'd have 2 hours to spread out their love story, but you kind of have to like jam pack it in. But I think that Galilee, who's Mia McKenna-Bruceand's character, essentially just like floats in, and she's just got this energy and this magnetism and this just something bubbling under the surface that I think just sweeps Cadence off her feet, and their connection is pretty undeniable straight away. When I talk about it and like when I think about it, I try not to think about it as like it's a girl liking a girl, or like it's a queer love story, which it is, but actually this is just two human beings that just see each other, and it's just like electricity, fireworks immediately, and it doesn't matter who they are or like where they've come from, they've just got that connection, and that's what I wanted to kind of show, I guess.
How do you get yourself ready to act that, to portray that?
Well, luckily, Mia, who plays Galilee, I've known Mia for 15 years. We actually grew up on CBBC together, and we did another show together called Vampire Academy. So luckily, I felt really, really comfortable with Mia. I've also known our husband, Michael, since primary school. So I was very lucky that I was within a cast where I felt really, really, really safe. We had an intimacy coordinator, so any of the kind of more intimate romantic scenes between Cadence and Jeremiah, and then Cadence and Galilee, they were all choreographed and planned very carefully and very delicately. We also had a day of rehearsals in London before we shot the shoot, so like we did the script multiple times, we blocked out the scenes as best as we could. So by the time it got to the shoot, we were really prepared and ready, and we felt quite safe and comfortable with each other. Do you identify as queer yourself, or are you... Yeah, so I'm bi or pan. I never really know what to say anymore. So I'm like bi-pan, queer, I guess. Yeah, so and I've never made a queer story or been cast in one as an actress, and it is something I'm really passionate about, and I would love to like give my voice to that. It's what I enjoy watching and reading about, and so it's nice. I hope that Sister Wives can play a little part in that rhetoric.
Yeah, that was my next question. I mean, do you kind of feel a bit of a responsibility? You know, you've got this platform, you know, you've got this talent to do it. Was making something queer kind of on your agenda to actually make sure that, you know, that is a platform that you can use?
It wasn't before I got the idea for Sister Wives. Like, I would have always loved to have made something, but also important not to force it. And then when that idea came, like, I think it was the beginning of last year, I was like, oh my God, I was like, this is exactly the kind of film that I want to make. And I do feel a lot of responsibility to make it natural and nuanced and realistic, and also and also that these two women have a lot of fear about coming out, and really being delicate with that as well, and giving their love story like the time and respect that it deserves. But yeah, I do feel a lot of responsibility. I take it really seriously. I'm really proud of it, and proud to be hopefully playing a little part maybe in like queer cinema history. Hopefully it's the start of like that journey for me. And
so you know, you're a queer actress yourself. Like, how do you have those conversations? Right, this is a queer love story. We've got a responsibility to make it natural and you know, make it great. What were those kind of conversations like?
I don't think we ever massively discussed it, because it like I say, the forefront of our mind was the characters, essentially. So it was never like, right guys, we're making a queer film. It was like, we're making a delicate film about a woman that is conflicted between two loves in her life. So we never really spoke about that. We just wanted to be as prepared and ready and like considerate as possible, and just hope that what we were making was a really beautiful, authentic love story first and foremost.
What's the reaction been like to it so far?
It's been really good. It's just started its festival run, and we've only just started literally like a couple of months ago. We've already got into some really good festivals. We did a big screening at Genesis Cinema in Whitechapel in April to like 550 people. It was like packed out, and we did a panel and like Q&A, and the response has been incredible. I've now written the feature film version of the script, and we're in meetings with people about trying to get the long story made so that we can really give the characters the time that they deserve, and kind of expand the love story even more. So it's been going really, really well, yeah.
It'd be nice to see Cadence in a huge cinema, do you think? I mean, would you hope this would be something that could go forward and do that?
Yeah, I feel really really good about where Sister Wives as a project is heading. I think that Cadence, Galilee and Jeremiah have so much more to say, and I'd love to explore more of the world that they're in, like look at the church, look at the other women, the other relationships, the families that they came from. There's so much more to be told, and I think that it's got a good chance of growing into something much bigger, hopefully.
I want to talk about you for a second as well, because I was reading earlier that you worked in a call centre.
Yes.
Whilst you wrote call centre. I mean, it's amazing, you know, to have your day job and balance this passion and turn it into cinema. What was that like, you know, working in a call centre, having these big dreams and things and trying to make them happen?
I actually wrote the film The Call Centre on a pen and paper whilst working at the call centre. Because I'll tell you quickly about how that idea came to light. I was on the phone to a customer at my day job who was incredibly sweet. I was setting up his life cover policy for him, and he was just very lovely. And at the end of the phone call, he went, "Here's my Instagram, you've got to add me." And obviously, you can't do that. Like, that's against the regulations of the company that I was working for. But I just thought that was mad that like I'm working in this office with like all these people and all this data and information, and somebody could literally like just give me their Instagram. But balancing it all, luckily that job is incredibly flexible. So they would like give me time off for acting jobs and little before directing, writing jobs when I needed it. But it's tricky to balance. A lot of writing in the evening until the early hours of the morning, writing before your shift starts, writing on the weekends. You have to really be so passionate to make your little side hustles work and make enough money for rent and bills and everything. So it's tricky, but if you really want to, I think that it is possible.
Yeah, what would you say to other people who might have that kind of kernel of an idea and think I'd like to do it? I mean, how have you managed to kind of push yourself forward?
Scheduling writing time in for sure. So if you work, I don't know, 10 to 6 or whatever, you get up at 7 and you write from 8 to 10. You will have to write in the evenings and the weekends. You have to save up your holiday hours, and then you take those holiday days and you do not go on holiday, you write or make things. So it's exhausting. It's exhausting balancing a job. Get a team on board as well. So, for example, when I first started the call centre, I had an amazing producer on board called Emily Everdy. On Sister Wives, I had an amazing producer called Augusta Woods, and you build a team around you, and as long as you're all passionate about it, you can delegate certain jobs to people, and it can become a team effort to make things happen.
Now, you've done Casualty, Midsummer Murders, yeah. House of Anubis, everywhere. What was your favourite acting job so far?
I was on a show for years called Wolf Blood, from when I was a teenager. We're all still best mates, and we were a bunch of teenagers living in Newcastle for years. So that was really fun, but it was very, very cold. We always shot in the winter in school uniforms, in the woods, chasing werewolves, essentially. But those guys, like, I would, in a heartbeat, if I could go back to that time with that group of people doing that, I'd probably have to pick that one. I've done a bunch of fun acting jobs as well. I loved Call the Midwife. I got to play this like big pregnant Cockney lady with like red lipstick and like loads of fur.
Can you do her accent?
Oh God, no! I don't want to insult all of East London. I'm actually from Birmingham, but I've lost my Birmingham accent. So loads of fun acting jobs. I feel, yeah. I'm doing it since I was quite little, so yeah.
What's the worst acting job you've ever had?
I did a really bad commercial for I'll just say it. I did a really bad commercial for Mazuma Mobile.
Right.
When I was a kid. They like made my hair purple, and there was like a wind machine. It was pretty tragic, I'd probably say. But even that was a laugh, it's all fun.
Do you ever watch them back and just think, wow?
I do love getting the Mazuma Mobile commercial out. When you're out and you've had a few drinks and you're with a new group of people, and it is fun to whack that one out. It's really bad, yeah. Really
Two truths and a lie. I mean, it's a great one, isn't it?
Yeah, I was the face of Mazuma Mobile. Yikes.
What do you prefer? Is it the kind of writing side or the acting side, or do you like to dip your toe in both?
I honestly love writing, directing and acting equally. Yeah, I can't pick. Acting was my first love. It was like, if you'd have told me like 5 years ago that I was going to be like directing, I would have been quite surprised, because I've always just been so like obsessed with acting, love it so much. But I have to say, I'm really, really enjoying the filmmaking space. I actually feel like it's come quite natural to me, and it's somewhere that I really thrive. And but I do love it all equally, and I really would like to have a career that means that I can forever explore all of those avenues and not have to pick one. That's obviously the dream.
Growing up in Solihull, how did you get inspired to do the acting? When did the door open for you?
So none of my family are really in the arts. Although my mum kind of like danced like as a kid, like growing up, and she went to this like Saturday stage school called Jackie Palmer, which is actually in Buckinghamshire. I kind of grew up between Birmingham and Buckinghamshire, so I was born in Birmingham and left when I was about 6. kind of lived in the week in Buckinghamshire, and in the weekends I lived in Birmingham because, you know, broken home and all that. But I went to the little stage school that my mum went to growing up, and it had, just because I was like this little hyperactive kid that was always trying to perform in some capacity, so my parents put me in like Saturday classes, and that school had an agency attached, like a kids agency with like thousands of kids. And I think, if I remember correctly, if you went to the school and did, you know, tap, ballet, all of that, you were automatically sort of part of the kids agency. So I started going to auditions from a young age, and I didn't book any really until I was a teenager, but that's how I got into it. I always loved it. I was always making like videos, like performing plays with my granddad when I was like 4 or 5 that my nan would video. We've got them all. I should post them at some point. But I was always like a mad little performy kid.
What are auditions like? Because I always try to imagine what it's like going into an acting audition. Do you know what you're going to be asked? Do you get given the lines, or can they just like spring something on you, like to do an accent or do a, you know, what are they like? You
are given a script to audition, but I have been in positions where they've asked you to do improv. They would rarely spring an accent on you. Because that would be quite mean, I think. Although I did have one recently where they sprung a Scottish accent on me.
That is harsh.
Which was terrifying.
How did you do?
I think I didn't get the job, so that's pretty telling. Yeah, probably, tanked that one. So yeah, you get given 1 to 3 scenes, and you try and be off book, and you go in and do your best. A lot of them are self-tapes now. Again, since the pandemic, auditions used to be in person, but most people film them at home now.
Does that feel strange, kind of filming yourself, or are you just so used to it now?
Some people really miss the days of in-person auditions, whereas I actually quite enjoy the new self-taping thing, because if you mess up your line, or if you just mess up your tape, you can just start it again, and then you can choose the takes that you're sending and edit it together in a way that, you know, hopefully puts the strongest foot forward. So I quite
one
like
take.
It.
That was
And in-person auditions are nerve-wracking.
Are they?
Yeah.
Do you see everybody, like you see in the films, everybody's sort of like in the
waiting
room together,
room.
sizing up the competition?
Yes, in the waiting room, everyone sort of looks the same. Sometimes your mates are in there. It's weird. But yeah, I'd be nervous going in now because I haven't had an in-person audition in so long. Yeah.
What's next for you?
So getting the feature film version of Sister Wives made is kind of top of my list right now. So I've written the feature, and now we're just in meetings with, you know, studios, distributors, sales agents, that kind of thing, and just try to do the next step really, and get it made into like a good chunky 2-hour film.
Well, hopefully we're going to see it in some cinemas soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
that
guys.
was really interesting. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Like 0 degrees. I'm out the